Good morning, members of Parliament, support staff, radio listeners, TV viewers, those following via social media, members of the media, those in the Tribune here this morning. Again, a good morning. Wishing all a blessed week as I welcome you to the continuation of public meeting number 16 for today, Monday, May 20th, 2024. We have established a quorum of 11 members, and I invite you to stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. I have received notice of absence from the member Irian. Are there any other notifications? Are there any other notifications for this meeting? I see that MP Christophe Emmanuel is requesting the floor for notifications. MP Emmanuel, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning to my honorable colleagues and everyone in the Tribune too as well. Madam Chair, the District of South Ward have been rocked this weekend severely with 2 deaths. So I'm just here to give up my condolences to the Pantaflet family on the loss of their daughter, Subia, and also Mr. Carty across from St. Dominic School. Also, the father he has passed on to as well. 2 well-known individuals from in that area, Madam Chair. So there's a lot of mourning and sadness right now. So I'm just giving my condolences to the family, the bereaved friends, and everyone that is touched by the loss of lives of those 2 individuals. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Christophe Emmanuel, and I join you in expressing words of condolences to the families and friends of the deceased, as well as the entire community in which these persons lived. So thank you, MP Emmanuel. I see that MP De Wever is requesting the floor for notifications. MP De Wever, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairlady. Good morning and good week to everyone. Over the last few years, we have seen frequency with the word of mental health being used. And I hope that going forward, as things get cleaned up, that we can see this country moving in the direction where the taboo is removed from addiction and from mental illness. And we would be able to support such groups and subsidize them in a sustainable manner. With that, I would like to extend my condolences to the Hawley and Velasquez family on the loss of Miss Cleopatra Hawley, who was a social worker beforehand. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP De Wever. MP De Wever, I too have to, in this case, join you in your expressions of condolences, as well as the emphasis that you put on the matter of mental health care. And I am in total agreement that the efforts that are currently being made on St. Martin by different organizations and persons to put this matter in the limelight of our discussions, I totally support that as well. So again, condolences to the families of the late Cleo Hawley. Thank you, MP De Wever. I continue and I offer MP Mingret the floor for notifications. MP Mingret.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Pleasant good morning to you. Pleasant good morning to everybody who's in the Tribune and who's tuning in via all media. Madam Chair, I want to take this time, a moment, to send sincere condolences to Jean-Yves Marcelin. Is somebody who I look up to as a role model throughout my childhood, and he just recently passed away, so I want to send sincere condolences to him and his family. Also, Madam Chair, I also want to, during this weekend, it was the Haitian Flag Day. I want to send a big shout out to all my Haitian brothers and sisters throughout the whole nation and St. Martin. A happy Flag Day. That'll be all, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Maingret for those notifications, and I continue and I offer MP Silveria the floor for notifications. MP Jacobs, sorry, MP Silveria Jacobs, the floor for notifications. MP Jacobs, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you, that's Griffier, my colleagues, of course, those in the Tribune, and the people of St. Martin and all those tuning in. I would like to add my condolences on behalf of the NA faction and family, and of course from my family to the families Carty, Pantoflet, as well as also just being shocked by the statement of Miss Holly, to the family Holly, Auntie Ari, and the rest. Much condolences to you and much strength during this difficult time. I indeed add my, let's say, support to us as a country, making sure that we do take care of the most vulnerable within our communities. Listening sometimes is all we can do, and that goes a long way. So indeed, structurally taking care of mental health, but also within our families, within friend circles, we can also do our little bits by supporting them, being a listening ear for when the times are difficult. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that opportunity, and of course, also happy Flag Day to the Haitian people and continued strength during the struggles. We look forward to a time when there will be peace in Haiti and democracy will once more rule so that the people can continue to prosper in a sustainable manner. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Silveria Jacobs, for your notifications, and I continue and offer the floor to MP Omar Otley for his notifications. MP Otley.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good day to my honorable colleagues, the viewing and listening public. As we sit here in Parliament today, we notice that we are filled with condolences for notifications. This is a signal that life in its essence should be not taken for granted. We are blessed to be here today. And while we focus on mental health and all of those other issues plaguing our great nation, I would also like to say we need to focus on second chances. I would take this moment to say rest in peace to a dear friend of mine, Mr. Chris LeBlanc, who passed away recently, or his life got taken. This is someone that spent time in the institution, came out, got 3 degrees from NEPA, went on an interview, was the best candidate, and did not receive the job simply because he had a record. We are forcing our young men back into the streets. If we are going to preach, if we are going to talk the talk, let us walk the walk. So I say this and I urge us as an entire Parliament, government, and the extension to the business community. Let us focus on second chances and stop forcing our young men back into the streets. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Otley, and your notifications are well taken, and again, I thank you for those. Members of Parliament, I would want to adjourn this meeting just for about 5 minutes, and I'll explain why. Since this meeting started on May 6th, there has been several pieces of correspondence regarding the meeting, and those communications have been responded to. I just want to make sure that the members who have sent different letters regarding the meeting, regarding having another meeting, etc., that those responses have been received. Most of them have been directed to me. There has also been a letter directed to the Secretary General of Parliament, Mr. Richardson, with questions. Those questions too have been answered. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting just for 5 minutes to make sure that all members have received answers to their questions, as well as the possibility for other members of Parliament to take note of the requests and the answers given. So members of Parliament, with your indulgence, we'll just adjourn for 5 minutes to make sure that we're all basically talking from the same book in this case. Meeting adjourned for 5 minutes. Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. In the meantime, I have ascertained that the responses to requests and letters by several members of Parliament have been not only sent to those asking the different questions and making proposals for meetings, etc., but also to all members of Parliament to take note of. For the general public, I will make sure that it is understood and that it is explained what letters have been responded to and how. The Secretary General of Parliament, Mr. Richardson, has received a request from several members of Parliament, MP Otley, MP Arundel, MP La Cruz, MP Marlin, MP Jacobs, MP Duran, and MP Irian. And they have asked the Secretary General of Parliament to provide clarification on the following points. One, in a situation where a member of Parliament makes a proposal during a parliamentary session, what are the appropriate steps and procedures to bring that proposal to a vote? Was the first question by the members of Parliament. Two, what recourse does a member have when they make a request for a vote on their proposal, but the Chair of Parliament does not honor it? Two. Three, are there any specific rules or guidelines in place that outline the role and responsibilities of the Chair of Parliament in addressing member proposals and conducting votes? The members of Parliament continue in that letter to state that, and I quote, "We believe that a comprehensive understanding of the rules of order will contribute to a more effective parliamentary process promoting accountability and democratic principles within our esteemed institution." In the answer by the Secretary General of Parliament, the following has been clarified for the members of Parliament. And I quote from the response, which is in possession of all members of Parliament. And I think it's important that members of Parliament take note of the answers as provided, because it would become evident that there has been leniency with respect to the application of the rules of order. So I will give you the responses as given. For clarity, it is stated in the letter of the Secretary General, it is important to note that the rules of order speaks of various proposals by members. However, considering the posed inquiries, allow me to first elucidate on Article 44 of the Rules of Order of Parliament. Article 44, paragraph 1 of the Rules of Order for Parliament states that the sequence of the speakers may be interrupted if a member requests the floor for 1, a personal fact, 2, to make a proposal of order concerning the proposal being deliberated, or 3, to ask for a point of clarification, not to interrupt the chairperson of Parliament. It is the only way in which the sequence of the speakers according to the speakers list can be interrupted. In the 3 above mentioned cases, so again, a personal fact, to make a proposal of order concerning the proposal being deliberated, or 3, to ask for a point of clarification, the floor is given in the same sequence. Paragraph 3 of the same article continues and further explains that a proposal of order made in the way prescribed by the rules of order may be made by the president or by a member. However, in the case the proposal of order is by a member, the proposal of order is only considered if it is supported by at least 2 other members. And then the Article 44 is mentioned in the letter by the Secretary General. So it continues, in a situation where a member of parliament makes a proposal during a parliamentary sessions, what are the appropriate steps and procedures to bring that proposal to vote? And again, Article 44 is quoted. In the event a member makes a proposal of order during a parliamentary session, based on Article 44 of the Rules of Order, the member must request the floor indicating that he or she has a proposal of order. The proposal of order must be concerning the proposal being deliberated on, and this means that the proposal must concern the agenda point being handled. This also means that the sequence of the speakers would have been interrupted, according to the speakers list. Additionally, the proposal of order must also be supported by at least 2 other members to be considered. And in the event the president constitutes that a proposal of order indeed concerns the proposal being deliberated on and that it is supported by at least 2 other members, the president can ask if there are any objections. In the case of objections, the proposal of order will then be brought to a vote. What recourse does a member have when they make a request for a vote on a proposal, but the chair of parliament does not honor it? In the event the proposal is a proposal of order and the president constitutes that there is either not sufficient support for the proposal of order or that a proposal of order does not concern the proposal being deliberated, there is no need to bring the proposal to a vote. Based on Article 8 of the Rules of Order, the President of Parliament is tasked with, inter alia, directing the task of Parliament and maintaining order during the deliberations of Parliament. Are there any specific rules or guidelines in place that outline the role and responsibility of the Chair of Parliament in addressing member proposals and conducting votes? In the event the proposal is a proposal of order, see answers as I quoted to questions 1 and 2. The reasons I went into detail as to these answers is again to emphasize that there has been leniency in applying the proposal of order, 1, even in notifications, the length of these statements, as well, there has been leniency in most cases. However, take note of the fact that in the meeting on May 6th, we had notifications, we had a proposal of order that was actually to adjust the agenda points and include agenda points. 1, dissolvement of the presidium, and 2, to appoint a new presidium. Presidium is not a collective appointment or dismissal. Chair is appointed and or dismissed. Vice chair is appointed and or dismissed. Second vice chair is appointed and or dismissed. And so, my response in the meeting of May 6th. I talk about leniency. Roll call. Roll call is not the purview of any member of parliament. A roll call is at the discretion of the President of Parliament if he or she determines that there are not sufficient members in Parliament to constitute a quorum. In addition to that letter sent for clarification to the Secretary General, I have also received requests for, 1, to postpone this meeting of today, May 20th, and schedule it for tomorrow, Tuesday. I have responded to those requesting such that this request could not be entertained. Why? 1, because according to the records of Parliament, on Monday, so today, May 20th, there would be sufficient members of Parliament on island to constitute a quorum. Secondly, to add to the agenda of this meeting, the issue of let me, before I just paraphrase, state what the next agenda point was requested to be. Clarity on the questionable formation process. The request for this meeting that would include those agenda points has also not been honored because this request has been withdrawn by those requesting the meeting. So, that answer was also provided to members of Parliament. And thus, we are where we are today with a continuation of public meeting number 16 for today that deals with the approval of the credentials of incoming members. Members of Parliament, I have informed you that these letters to which I just referred, the requests as well as the answers, have been provided to all members of Parliament. And with respect to 1, proposals of order, 2, roll call, I kindly ask all members of Parliament to take note of the regulations regarding these as put forward in our rules of order. We have as agenda point for this public meeting, as I mentioned, the examination of credentials and admission of members of Parliament. And I want to just briefly state again that this meeting was first originally scheduled for Thursday, May 2nd, 2024, but could not take place due to the lack of quorum. In accordance with Article 35 of the Rules of Order, the meeting was called again on Monday, May 6th for 9 a.m. However, at 9:30 a.m., there was no quorum, and hence the meeting could not take place. In accordance with the same Article 35 of the Rules of Order, the meeting was called once again for the third time for 9:45 on the same day. The meeting commenced, however, could not continue due to the lack of quorum and the roll call issue that I referred to earlier. So going over to the agenda point, on May 1st, 2024, Parliament received letters from members of Parliament Dr. Luc F.E. Mercelina and Mrs. Grisha S. Heiliger-Martin, tendering their resignation as members of Parliament effective May 3rd, 2024, in connection with their appointment as ministers in the new Council of Ministers, IS 643 and IS 644 of this parliamentary year. These letters of resignation, which in accordance with Article 49 of the Constitution and Article 120 of the Electoral Ordinance, are form-free, and they were submitted, as is required, to the President of Parliament. The resignation of these 2 MPs has made available 2 seats in Parliament for the next 2 elected candidates in line for the respective seats to be sworn in. It is important to note as well that Article 115 of the Electoral Ordinance, the so-called kiesverordening, states that if other than in the determination of the result of an election, an existing or upcoming vacant seat must be filled, the chair lady of the voting bureau shall declare within 8 days of being informed of this in a decision stating the reasons that a candidate who appears on the same list as the member whose seat has or will become vacant and who is placed highest on that list in the order referred to in Article 100 is elected. In accordance with Article 120 of the Electoral Ordinance, the kiesverordening, the Chairman of Parliament notifies the Chair Lady of the Central Voting Bureau and Government of the resignations. And this was done on May 1, 2024, UV 129 and 132 of this parliamentary year. On May 2nd, 2024, Parliament received a letter from the Chair Lady of the Central Voting Bureau informing Parliament that Mr. Richinel S. J. Brug and Mr. Viren V. Kotay, accepted their election as Member of Parliament. This document is registered as incoming document IS 645. On May 2nd, Parliament received the credentials from the two elected members of Parliament, Mr. Brug and Mr. Kotai, accompanied by a letter indicating whether or not they have a public function. And in addition to that, the elected members of Parliament submitted a letter indicating that they have not acted in contravention with the National Ordinance Registration and Finances of Political Parties. Both Mr. Brug and Mr. Kotai also submitted an extract from the Census Office saying that they have not been Member of Parliament before, IS 646 members. These documents are prescribed by Articles 115, 105, paragraphs 4, 104, 107, paragraph 1 and 2 of the Election Ordinance, and Article 53 of the National Ordinance Registration and Finances of Political Parties. Other articles of law which are also applicable in this case are Article 54 of the Constitution and Article 108 of the Election Ordinance. We also have Article 2 of the Rules of Order that apply in the cases as we have before us. Article 2, Article 3 of the Rules of Order, as well as Article 4 of the Rules of Order of Parliament describe how this matter is to be handled. Before going over or going further with the agenda point, another matter that has been raised publicly, not really directed in specific questions to me as chair, but which I do want to address because of some of the phrases that have been used surrounding this matter, and that is the letters of resignation from the two members, the two former members of Parliament that I just referred to. I have indicated to the members of Parliament what dates that these letters have been received by Parliament. So for the sake of the general public, I want to address several issues that have been mentioned in connection with these letters of Parliament. One, the resignation letters by the members, former members of Parliament, Mercelina and Heiliger Martin, were emailed on the 29th of April with an attachment of a letter of resignation dated May 2nd. In both letters dated May 2nd, it is emphatically stated that the resignation as presented by these members would go into effect on May 3rd, 2024. Why were the letters of the former MPs dated May 2nd is not my purview to second guess. What I do want to address is from Parliament's perspective. These letters were received by email of the 29th of April. Subsequently, taken into consideration that there were several holidays involved. One, that by the 3rd of May 2024, these resignations would have gone into effect, that the main voting bureau, even during those holidays, worked along with Parliament and the incoming members to ensure that Parliament had all of the necessary letters, and thus we had everything in place for a May 2nd meeting for the approval of the credentials. So, to have this matter put in the context of, and I want to quote a phrase that I heard, semi, borderline, fraudulent, as President of Parliament, I do not and cannot support that statement in connection with Parliament's actions in this regard. Reference for underpinning this statement and referring to a systemic report by the Ombudsman of St. Martin of 2012, and let me be specific, because the members who are alluding to this matter state, and I quote, and if you allow me a minute, I will. The members of Parliament has actually stated in their letters regarding this systemic investigation by the Ombudsman, and I don't want to speak for them, but rather because I think it's important for the general public to understand. Here we go. Thank you, SG. The letter by the members Arundel and La Cruz state, and I quote, secondly, as you are aware, we have both verbally and in writing requested the handling of an urgent agenda point, clarity regarding the questionable formation process. The motivation regarding the additional agenda point is to seek clarification as to whether proper procedures have been observed regarding the resignation letters. In the case of Parliament, it has. If proper procedures have not been followed, it will nullify the resignation of the above mentioned members of Parliament, thereby putting their appointments as ministers into question, and potentially the validation of credentials would be a moot topic. Hence, our request for this to be handled first before the examination of credentials. And here it comes. In addition, we would like to draw attention to the systemic investigation carried out in 2012 by the then Ombudsman on views and legalities for handling documents on public holidays. People of St. Martin, I want to make it very clear that there is no systemic investigation carried out in 2012 by the Ombudsman on views and legalities for handling documents on public holidays. Absolutely not. There is a systemic investigation, many of them, and there was one in 2012 as well, and it had to do with the cadastre of St. Martin. And in that context, the issue of changing a date on a document on a holiday and making it public has been brought into question by the Ombudsman, not an investigation on views and legalities for handling documents on public holidays. I needed to make that very, very clear for these type of insinuations about the proper handling of the paperwork to vet the credentials of incoming members does not continue to live a life of its own. So I now continue and let you know, members of Parliament, where we're at, and that has to do with the Parliament having to appoint a committee. But we do have a speakers list, and so before going over to appointing the members of the committee who have to verify the credentials, I want to remind members of Parliament that the allotted speaking time has been established at 20 minutes in the first round and 10 minutes in the second round. And according to the speakers list, I want to give the floor, starting with MP Egbert Duran. MP Duran, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to my honorable colleagues, persons in the Tribune, the Secretary General. Good morning to you as well, Madam Chair, and a special good morning to the people of St. Martin. Madam Chair, you referred to some responses. We got those responses basically 9 o'clock this morning. One of those responses was asking for a postponement of the meeting because members of Parliament were away on parliamentary business. It wasn't honored. Nevertheless, we had to make sure, jump, skip, and hop, and make sure that we were here to represent and handle the people's business, which we always wanted to. All we requested, Madam Chair, that day on May 6th, in the notifications as well, we can go back and check the tapes, were clarifications on these letters. And it was totally ignored. These letters were, as you just mentioned, now it make me even wonder more. It was sent on the 29th and dated on the 2nd. Now imagine, I was a minister a month ago, and if I date something in June, what do you call that? And if I backdate something, what do you call that? Hence the reason for the quote, semi-borderline fraudulent. Madam Chair Lady, I believe that this coalition is playing monkey in the middle with the people of St. Martin. Simply because they're shifting the blame back and forth, no clear discussions as to where we are heading, what was done, the transparency that everyone preaches about, but doesn't put their money where their mouth is. They're taking us for a long ride, up and down, and it's not clear which direction we are headed. Madam Chair, we did not intend to avoid any incoming member of Parliament from coming in because I understand the constitutional role on that end. But also as members of Parliament, we have a constitutional role to ask for clarity, seek information, and get clarity when that is needed. Today we got a deep down explanation on the letter, and for me it makes it even more worrying that the letter was sent on the 29th, dated the 2nd, booked in on the 1st, which was a holiday, and one of them you mentioned was to go into effect on the 3rd. One of them said basically immediately. And I'm not going to go and read it because it's there for the public, but I just find it quite unfortunate, and I just hope that these things don't happen again. And I would hope, Madam Chair, that moving forward, that when members of Parliament bring forward certain proposals, things, I heard you mention as well that leniency has been given in the past. So it makes me think that basically for the last 14 years, Parliament has been doing things the wrong way. Nevertheless, we're never too old to learn and improve on our craft. We change the rules of order, and I believe that change is important, especially where clarity is needed. So I really appreciate that point. But it doesn't take away my sentiments of things just doesn't look right, and I cannot, again, as I want to repeat this so that it can resonate with the general population, I cannot sit here with a good heart and allow things to continue to go backwards in our country. I will not, under no circumstances. Therefore, I will continue to do my job as a member of Parliament, hold the government accountable, hold the Parliament accountable as well, because all of us have our role to play, and I look forward to a prosperous continuation of our parliamentary year, and that we can move forward and respect each other's views. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, MP Duran. I will immediately, let me leave my addressing for some of the issues that were mentioned by MP Duran and sort of directed to the chair. I'll leave those for later on in the meeting, because I believe it's not only to provide MP Duran with clarification, but also to make sure that the people of St. Martin have a good grip in terms of what we're discussing and the rules of order and legality is concerned. And I also will be addressing what exactly was asked for in the meeting of May 6th. I continue. Thank you again, MP Duran, and I give the floor to MP Otley. MP Otley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, once again. Good day to the viewing and listening public. Madam Chair, I have noticed there seems to be an issue with dating. We speak of these letters that has different dates, and on May 7th, the 7 opposition members sent a request to have a meeting, urgent public meeting, to be handled while most of us were still here in the country. I received an email or a response on May 10th, 8:44 a.m., attached with a letter dated May 8th. Again, today, it is being given the impression that my faction's letters have been responded to in a timely fashion. But today, again, they received an email 8:44 a.m. today, 6 minutes before this meeting was scheduled to start. Nonetheless, nonetheless, I'm here to say this. Amidst all the chaos, confusions, and contradictions, I can speak for myself and the faction of the United People's Party. We have no issues approving the credentials of the two young men. We never did have issues approving the credentials. But opposition or not, we will not be rubber stamps. So today, clarity was provided. I guess clarity is provided in hopes that MP Duran do not bring a point of proposal again, but that was not the case. But thank you for the clarity. But, Madam Chair, I was in VSI, I was in government, and one thing I can say is that this government paints doom and gloom. Every article is doom and gloom. St. Martin is trying times, but yet we're in a honeymoon phase. Government does not have honeymoon phase. And hence why I agree with your article in the paper, Madam Chair, stated, what is the governing accord? Are we not following the governing accord? Because I refuse to believe that in the governing accord of 2x4 it says to pick up barricades as a prime minister. I refuse to believe that that is the most important thing that you can do, because I know, sitting in Council of Ministers, former Prime Minister had many, many unfinished things to do for this country. So ain't no way that as a Prime Minister, you are telling your PR to take a picture of me moving a barricade. I'm seeing nothing of substance. Just to prove my point, adjusting the SZV payout dates for seniors to allow them to be paid at the end of the month as opposed to the following month. Starting community vaccination programs, starting community vaccination outreach, resolving and formalizing a MOU with the Pharmacy Association, establishing a payment method to avoid a strike or non-acceptance of government cards. Those are things that I did in my first week as Minister of VSI. I am seeing parading of nothing of substance. We sat here for budget and everyone asks, what are some of the things that you would like the government to continue? What are some of the things that you would want to do? And I noticed during the budget they keep asking, what are your future plans? What are your future plans? When it was expected for us to be out in a week. So I guess they were asking our future plans because they have no idea what to do. So I have no questions or anything. So I turn to you MPs, incoming MPs. I look forward to serving with you, hopefully very soon. But I just wanted to let the public know my sentiments on this government. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Otley. And as I mentioned earlier, the issues that are raised by members of Parliament, not necessarily on the topic at hand, but with respect to Parliament's functioning, etc., I will address those. The issue of an urgent meeting and who decides when a meeting is urgent or not. It is of the President, my dear members of Parliament and people of St. Martin, to determine the urgency of a meeting once it has been convened or requested in the fashion stipulated by law. But I will go further into that, and I will not belabor it while the members are still in the speaking order. And I continue and offer MP La Cruz the floor. MP La Cruz, you have the floor.
A blessed morning, Madam Chair Lady, to my colleagues here in our meeting room with us and those in the auditorium. Madam Chair Lady, I am not going to let this one pass, as my fellow Member of Parliament, Duran, did not want to read a letter because I, yes, had questions about it, and I still think something is not right. The letter dated on the 2nd of May came in and was booked in on the 1st. The letter states, I am writing to formally submit my resignation from my position as a member of Parliament in accordance with the Rules of Order of Parliament of St. Martin as outlined in Chapter 15 of Article 90. I am going to read it again. It says, I am writing to formally submit my resignation. Nowhere in this letter, Madam Chair Lady, it states as of the 3rd. A little further down, it gives an explanation why the resignation is being tendered. It says, the primary reason for my resignation is to adhere to the Article 34, Section 2, Subsection 2, which prohibits members of Parliament from simultaneously holding the position of Minister, given my forthcoming swearing in as Minister of TIAT on May the 3rd, it is imperative for me to vacate my current parliamentary role. That means that on the 2nd, that resignation was already tendered. There's why I asked the question, why was that ex-member of Parliament still sitting in a member of Parliament's chair during that meeting? That was my question, Madam Chair. And I like the games, you know, the playing with words, you know. I love it. I really, really love it. But to answer another question from the minister, from the member of Parliament, in the Criminal Code, Article 225.1, which you would know, states, any person who falsely draws up or falsifies a document intended to serve as evidence of any fact with the intention of using it as genuine and unaltered to having it used by others, that is criminal. So I am somewhat confused that anyone felt even, you know, attacked in any way whatsoever concerning this matter. It was not clear to me, so I asked. And I think after a parliament of 15 members that voted unanimously for one chair, I expected to say, hey guys, 1 second. This is what I actually expected. This is what happened. This is what, just some clarity. And we could have moved on. The 2 new incoming members of Parliament would have been here a long time ago. And they both know that me personally have no issues with you, and I don't think anyone else that is sitting now here in opposition also has any problem with you guys. Okay? Madam Chair Lady, thank you.
Thank you, MP Lacruz. And I continue, and I give the floor to MP Marlin. MP Marlin, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning to my honorable colleague MPs. Good morning to the listening public, and good morning to those in the Tribune. I would like to first start to say, I hope we can welcome these 2 fine young men to their seats in Parliament. I wish today you was here among us deliberating another meeting probably. But with that said, after listening to my colleague MPs speak, listening to the chair, I have one conclusion today. One conclusion. I must change the name of the government from government of contradiction to government of blame. Why I say government of blame? I sit down and I listen and I hear all the rules of order coming out today, and I hear some very, very contradiction remarks, where I felt, like the Dutchman would say, aangesproken, when they say, in a notification round, they speak in time. I agree. I totally agree. When my good colleague MP, now Minister, was departing or vacating the seat in Parliament, I don't know which date she leave, because she write a letter the 2nd, she book it in, no, she write a letter, dated the 2nd, email it the 29th, book it in the 1st, to be immediate effect by, what you would say, the 3rd. But when I read the letter, or when MP La Cruz read the letter, it state immediate effect. It's sum up per immediate. Well, my summary of that letter also. Madam Chair, why I say government of blame? I can remember great stories in the hall, on the radio programs. GB, 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 when we get in, we're going to fix GB. Madam Chair, the farthest thing from the truth. I saw in the newspaper, GB was visited with what I would call an entourage of people. You had the Prime Minister, you had the Minister of ESR, you had the Deputy Prime Minister, you had the incoming Minister of Romy, you had the old-time Minister of TIAT, you had all ministers, including support staff and entourage. What we see today coming up at that meeting, blackouts and more blackouts, and power outages, and even scheduled power outages. I guess they want to keep the people in St. Martin in the dark, so they don't get to go on Facebook, they don't get to listen to these meetings to see that over there in that big building, nothing is happening. Madam Chair, on my way back, I decided to write a speech for the first time. Write a speech. And you see why I chose to write the speech on? The vomit bag. Because that's when I think about what this government is doing, you make me want to pick up. Like my colleague MP said, he can't believe in this governing program that the first order in the governing program is to move a barricade. Madam Chair, I was just in Brazil doing work for Parliament, on a Parliament visit. While in Brazil, among other members of Parliament from the various countries, one asked, guys, you just had an election. Is there a new Prime Minister? I said, yes. And when they Googled the Prime Minister, they too was flabbergasted to see a Prime Minister of a country carrying a barricade. They say, that's a joke. I say, no, man. They're going to update more work soon. I guess the updating didn't happen because what they proposed by GB was power outages. So the government itself didn't get chance to update what they were doing. Madam Chair, then I read, this one make me laugh, like he alluded, the doom and the gloom. And the country economy isn't so good. Things bad. Of course, things gonna be bad when 17 million missing from the country's coffers. Not by us, not by the outgoing ministers, not by the outgoing members of Parliament. But sometimes they say when you speak, because you know what you're speaking. Anyway, Madam Chair, that will be all for this round. I'll speak in a second. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Marlin, for your observations. And I then give the floor to MP Melissa Gums. MP Gums, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I said everything I had to say last week on the radio. But just to remind the public, for 7.5 months, while this Parliament was at a deficit due to a coalition member being off island, we, as opposition, gave quorum. Yes, we threw our shots when we had to, but at the end of the day, we sat in the room. And I also like to state for the public's knowledge, too, you can post date letters and checks That is actually a thing that happens. It doesn't mean that there's a fraud occurring. Nevertheless, I'm looking forward to welcoming my 2 incoming colleagues today, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, MP Gums, for your observations. And is there any need for members of parliament? Because that would be the end of our speakers list. And I ask if I think that MP Jacobs is heading towards the list. Yes, she is. I will give a minute or two for MP Jacobs to register on the speakers list. Okay, so we continue, members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen, and I give the floor to MP Jacobs. MP Jacobs, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, I don't have much to say this morning. As you know, I'm still battling my flu, but I'm here because I wanted to ensure that the people of St. Martin know that the National Alliance in no way, and specifically, I am in no way deterring the entrance of the 2 new incoming members of parliament, and the clarifications and the extensive explanations that were made in the prelude to this meeting are appreciated, and I understand about post-dating, etc. However, I believe that the questions and the clarifications that were asked could have been answered. And on the Thursday, the first day that this meeting was supposed to be held, there was, for me, the question, which I continue to ask, whether indeed there was a support, the full support. And today I can see that support here. So I'm happy to see that all 6 members are present this morning in the hall to be able to do their due diligence as well, because that was my concern, that there was no full support for this government. So whether they had gotten 2 in or not, it still didn't seem to be 8 to me. So seeing that we have 6 here today, I am very pleased to see that, and I look forward to the rest of the deliberations.
Thank you, MP Jacobs. And next MP on the speakers list is MP Roseberg. MP Roseberg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Secretary General, my dear colleagues, welcome back. And I want to keep it short and sweet, seeing that everybody could have said what they want to say, get everything off their chest. I think it's time for us to focus on what needs to be done so that the 2 new incoming MPs can do their job as Member of Parliament as well. I thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Roseberg. Members of Parliament, that's actually the speakers list for this meeting. I ask if there's the need for a second round. There is the need for a second round, according to some members. I start with MP Duran. MP Duran, do you no need for that? The MP Otley, do you need second round?
Yes, Madam Chair. It's very short. Yes, Madam Chair, it's very short. Again, with all that was said, I don't want it to be lost. So again, we, United People's Party faction, we look forward to welcoming the 2 young men to the halls of Parliament.
Thank you, MP Otley. MP Lacruz, second round for you.
Madam Chair Lady, I'm going to make this nice and short. It starts like this. Draft motion. The Parliament of St. Martin, in its meeting of today, May the 20th, 2024, coinciding the lengthy, non-transparent, and controversial formation process that the formateur, now Prime Minister Luc Marcelina of the current government presided over, that it is understood that even members of the coalition and of the party of the Prime Minister URSM themselves have expressed both publicly and privately the lack of confidence in the ability to govern as Prime Minister. that it is a clear lack of overall leadership in the 2x4 coalition has led us to where we are today, with a parliament of only 13 instead of 15. That while it is members of the 2x4 coalition have refused to show up for the first and the second meeting, which was called to approve the credentials of the 2 incoming members of parliament, they have ever since been trying to blame members of the opposition, citing that they are trying to keep the members elect from fulfilling their constitutional obligations, which is absolutely not the case. That it is further with much questionable in proper procedures, if proper procedures have been followed to arrive to the point where the ministers have been sworn in, while questions are still many regarding their resignation from Parliament. That this situation has clearly cast serious doubts regarding the resignation of Dr. Luke Marcelina and Mrs. Grisha Heiliger Martin from Parliament to become ministers, thus clearing the way for the approval of the credentials of incoming members, as was stated before on the floor of Parliament. That St. Martin needs a Prime Minister and a Council of Ministers that are truly capable of putting the country first and not their own interests, while neglecting those of others. That the Constitution of St. Martin in Article 33, sub 2 states, in the event any minister no longer enjoys the confidence of Parliament, he or she shall resign. Resolves that in accordance with Article 33, sub 2 of the Constitution of St. Martin, the Parliament of St. Martin expresses to have no confidence in the Prime Minister, the Minister of General Affairs, Dr. Luke Marcelina, also in following the ministers, Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Traffic and Telecommunication, Ms. Grisha Heiliger Martin, and the Minister of Public Health, Labor, Social Affairs, Ms. Veronica Janssen-Webster, that the Prime Minister and Minister of General Affairs, Dr. Luke Marcelina, as well as the Minister of Tourism, Economic Affairs, Traffic and Telecommunication, Ms. Grisha Heiliger Martin, and the Minister of Health, Social Affairs and Labor, Ms. Veronica Janssen, must be removed from office effective immediately while not participating in any decision whatsoever in the Council of Ministers upon passing of this motion. And it goes over to the motion of the day. Copies of this motion will be sent to His Excellency Governor of St. Martin, Adjournment Bailey, the Council of Ministers, Com of St. Martin, Parliament of Com of Curacao, Parliament and Com of Aruba. Order of the day. And this is supported by Member of Parliament Cloyd Marlin, Member of Parliament Omar Otley, Member of Parliament Akeem Arundel, and Member of Parliament La Cruz Francisco. It don't matter. It don't matter. We don't need the numbers.
We can create it.
MP La Cruz, is that and that's your termination of your speech for the second round?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP La Cruz, for your observations. And I continue with asking the members who are desirous of speaking in the second round, and the next one on the speakers list is MP Marlin. MP Marlin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll keep it very brief. This meeting of Parliament today isn't any other ordinary meeting of Parliament. Once again, the members of the opposition, we had to show up, and we made sure show up to approve the credentials so that these 2 fine young men can soon be sitting in this hall deliberating with us. I heard a colleague MP said that last term they had to endure showing up to make sure give quorum, stating some 7 months it was only 6. And rest assured that this MP Marlin will show up once on the island and once healthy without excuse. I will show up. I thank you.
Thank you, MP Marlin. And MP Melissa Gums, is there a desire for a second round? MP Gums.
Madam Chair, lady, thank you. Madam Chair, I don't really have much to say, and thank you for correcting me. It was 6 months, my bad. It felt longer. I just want to say, Madam Chair, that when we talk about stability out one corner of our mouth, out the other side, it cannot also mean only when I am there. That is the sentiment that I've been receiving, and the public has been receiving. And I would think after the public backlash over the last week and a half regarding what occurred prior to this, when this meeting was called for the second time, I think that that is what we have to pay attention to. We're here to represent the people. This is a constitutional matter. The Constitution says we have to be at 15 members. So all of this to do, just to bring in soon to be the second sharpest dressed Member of Parliament, Mr. Vren Kutai and Mr. Bruch. I think, you know, that is what we should be focused on today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, MP Gums. MP Jacobs, is there the need for second round? No need for such. Thank you, MP Jacobs. MP Roseburg, is there the need for such? There is not. Thank you, MP Roseburg. I continue with the agenda point for this meeting, and I now would have to appoint a committee. And that is the committee to vet the credentials of the elected members to Parliament. I would ask MP Melissa Gums, who would also be the chairperson of the committee, MP Jacobs, and MP Otley to please serve on the committee for the vetting. And I ask the clerk to hand over the credentials and pertaining documents to the committee so the committee can verify these. Members of Parliament, please do recall that the meeting is not adjourned while the committee is verifying the credentials of the elected members of Parliament. So members in the ladies and gentlemen in the tribune, members of Parliament, the meeting is not adjourned. What we're having now is that the committee appointed to do such is going to vet, go through, and examine the credentials of the members of Parliament elected to take office. However, before that taken office can take place, this process of vetting the credentials needs to happen, and I will inform, of course, the public what happens subsequently with the hope that all documents are found to be in order. At this point in time, MP La Cruz, I cannot entertain a proposal of order. That's the only opportunity. There is no point of order according to the rules of order of Parliament. All we know is a proposal of order. So you would have to allow me to continue with the meeting, MP La Cruz. Thank you. No, that is not at issue right now, MP La Cruz. It is not applicable. A clarification request is not applicable at this time. I give the chair the floor. Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought. My apologies, members of the committee. I thought that I got a signal that you were ready to report. I now give the floor to the chairperson, MP Gums, of the committee.
Thank
MP
you.
Gums.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair Lady, the committee has verified the credentials and all documents are in accordance to what the law prescribes and are in order. We advise for Parliament to approve the credentials of Mr. Richnel S.J. Brug and Mr. Viren V. Kotai.
Again, I allowed that. You're welcome. And thank you, Chair Lady and members of the committee, for a job well done. And you are hereby discharged of your duties. The committee, members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, has approved or proposed approving the credentials of Mr. Richnel S.J. Brug and Mr. Viren Kotai. Does Parliament agree with this proposal as made by the committee? I see no objection to that proposal. So now that the Parliament has agreed to approve the credentials of Mr. Richnel S.J. Brug and Mr. Viren Kotai, I will, according to Article 122, Paragraph 1, subletter A, B, and C of the Election Ordinance, notify immediately the Governor, the chairperson of the Central Voting Bureau, and the persons admitted regarding their admittance to Parliament. I congratulate the incoming members elected on their admittance as members of Parliament. And as soon as they are sworn in by the Governor of St. Martin, they will take their places in Parliament as members of Parliament. Congratulations. Proposal accepted. Make sure that that is covered. And members of Parliament, a motion has been presented. I will give you my initial take on the motion, and that is that it is not in accordance with the stipulations regarding a motion to be presented by a member and supported by others. However, in order to finalize this, I will adjourn this meeting so that we can complete the process because a motion has been submitted. I have given the members of Parliament as well as the public of St. Martin my initial take on it, just hearing it read, and thus I will hereby adjourn this meeting so that at some future point, in the near future, we can complete this meeting. There is no opportunity for a point of order, and a proposal of order could have only been regarding the proposal that, or the agenda point, which is on the discussion. Members of Parliament, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting is hereby adjourned.